Lots more for you to say, but we will be moving on to our next question, which is of the panel. How did you anticipate the experience that was about to unfold before you? What were some of your sources of excitement, positive anticipation, but also what were some of your concerns and fears? None of us has this experience without some concerns as well. So let's focus on the positive side of anticipation, and in some ways the source of concern side of anticipation.
So I was really excited to do independent research, to do it on my own, but I was a little nervous because I was really inexperienced at doing that, especially research methods and about my inability to predict anything about what it would be like. So despite the fact that I tried to plan out pretty well, I had a pretty set timeline, who I would meet and when. I've just heard so many times from different professors and people who'd done it before that there's no way to know that it's actually going to turn out that way, that it's not going to be the way you expect it at all. So I wasn't really sure how good I would be at thinking on my feet and like being able to make arrangements that would be good for my safety, but also like for my project. But luckily everything worked out really well. I think it helped definitely having backup plans and having a pretty good network within the country. So people were really accommodating when I would email them. They could set me up contacts in different places. And I would advise definitely just having a mindset that anything that happens, it's going to be advantageous in some way. If it's not necessarily for the academic or service part, it'll be for personal development, just being able to experience things that you weren't anticipating. So, yeah.
Yeah, similarly, I was super excited to live on my own in a foreign country. Having been there before, it was semi-familiar. I lived in the same housing complex, but it's pretty different if you were in the Stanford Overseas program and then you go live during the summer, because you're basically more independent. No one's catering your food and no one's taking you on trips around the city, and you don't have 30 other students to kind of explore with. And that's exciting, specifically because I haven't really done that in the States. You know, I live at home with my family. So it's that double edge of living in a foreign country and living on your own, in a foreign country. And I mean, it's exciting and it's kind of scary sometimes when you're thinking about it, but a lot of times Stanford has an infrastructure where you're going, or someone who's been there before, to kind of give you some advice about what to do and where to go. So it kind of just, what helps quell that fear is just reaching out to the resources that you have, because they're there, you just kind of have to find them.
Yeah, so I was excited again just to do some original research and discover something that hopefully no one else had discovered. And I think I was also really excited about having some time to introspect before my senior year. So I was going to be all alone. I did have some contacts in the region, but for the majority of it, I was just staying by myself. So I had a lot of time to read and kind of think about what I wanted to get out of my senior year and last year at Stanford. I think what I was most concerned about probably was, it seems to be almost a law of nature that wherever I go, I get sick. And sure enough, I did get sick in Burkina Faso and had to go to the hospital. But luckily, by complete coincidence, another Stanford student was there doing research on the hospital and ambulance system in Ouagadougou. And so it pays to talk to the people at your table, I promise. And then probably the other thing I was concerned about was just safety. Obviously, there are certain parts of West Africa that are not necessarily as safe as others, and so I was concerned about how I would be able to use common sense in all situations. So that took a little bit of thinking in advance.
So the first thing I was excited about was experiencing rural China. I'm from China and I have a lot of family that lives in Shanghai, which is one of the biggest cities in the world. So rural China is completely different, and I knew that it'd be a pretty eye-opening experience. And then the second thing, like most of the others, I was excited to do research that was self-designed, that I'd been working pretty hard on for the spring and the summer. Let's see, so to prepare, I worked with my research advisors. I arranged local contacts to make sure that once I was there, I'd be able to navigate my way through the rural villages. And one more thing that I recommend is if you're doing any type of qualitative health research, take HumBio 82A with Jennifer Wolf. She's an incredible person and she does an amazing job preparing you and going over your interview protocol and working with you. So I felt pretty confident with what I had going in. Yeah, and for concerns, I think I knew that I'd be on my own visiting these villages and asking them questions, and I was, a little bit concerned to, think about, will they take me seriously? Will they answer honestly? But everything ended up going well.
Well, I was very excited to go back to St. Lucia because I had done a first round of field research in 2010. So I was looking forward to continuing conversations with people that I'd met before, reporting on the work that I'd done, and also starting some new conversations. I was worried about not having enough money to pull off the whole project, and I actually raised half of the funds within the 2 weeks of leaving. So it was an ongoing fundraising effort. I was also worried about the heat because I was going during the hottest month of the year. And I was worried, too, as to whether people would attend my workshop because I was expecting to have 30 people there, and I'd sent out all my invitations, and just a few had trickled back in. But luckily, my mentors on the ground understood how to navigate culturally, and so once I got there, we actually got those people in the room. So it was actually a learning experience for me that it wasn't just enough to send invitations and follow up, but you had to make several rounds of phone calls once you got there and stuff like that. So.
Great. Your remarks remind me of my first overseas experience between my junior and senior year in college. It's almost exactly where you are, to Nigeria. I was tremendously excited about going to Africa, about which I've been interested for some time, for the first time. On the other hand, I was concerned about my racial identity. I'm a white guy. I live in a society where my, quote, race is the majority race. What is it going to be like to be in a racial minority going to Nigeria? How will people deal with me? Will they not like me because I'm white? Can we not communicate because of the racial barriers, et cetera? Those were very real fears. It turned out, race is always there. Other things are there. But that certainly was a concern that was on my mind. There's some other concerns that people have. One is that their research might be undoable. And this takes you, I think, to Nicole's very important point that it's important to have a backup plan for research or for service. If whatever you plan doesn't work out for whatever reason, the people aren't ready for you. They don't want you there when you discover, when you meet the people you encounter. Then it's very important to have thought about what is a plan B that you can make something out of. Otherwise, you might feel the whole summer has been wasted. Another issue often comes up: how will I adjust to a part of the world with a much lower standard of living, where there's filth in the streets, where feces are running down the sewers, where people are dying before you? That's not something we're used to certainly in the Stanford bubble, much less in so much of the United States, but that is the reality in many parts of the developing world. How will I get sick to my stomach seeing human suffering right in front of me? And that's a concern that I think many people have, myself included, when we go to those countries. So let's turn it over to you for just a few minutes to talk about both the excitement that you bring to this experience, but also some of your concerns. And they may resonate with what you've heard here.